Alright everyone, welcome back into another fantasy golf video. Going to be breaking down the 2025 Arnold Palmer Invitational. We're going to talk about which players are going to be the best stat fits, which players have the best course history, talk about recent form. We're also going to give you guys my core plays and players I'm going to be betting on outright wise, as well as placement bets. Then we're going to get into a little bit of a first look build, my first look build. Then we're going to compare that against the 9-to-5 lineup optimizer. And we're going to touch on the Puerto Rico Open slightly at the end of the video. So with that, guys, let's go ahead and get into it. Now, guys, just a quick recap from last week. Last week ended up being a slightly bad week, and I say slightly because the data did better than what I ended up doing. So the data was about 3 spots better, finishing spots better than the average Vegas odds, and about 4 spots better than the DraftKings salary. So it's kind of tilting for me to not have a good week personally. So that takes us to about 5 for 8 in terms of profitable weeks on the season, which is a rate that obviously we would take. It was a tilting week though. Like every single time we had a moment where it's like, all right, let's get going. Russell Henley gets the first place. Ryan Gerard gets the first place. Oh, Daniel Berger and Russell Henley are going to give us a first round leader bet. Oh, sorry, Jake Knapp had a career run. Like that just happened the whole week. It was just a tilting week in that sense. But we look to this week, guys. We have 2 tournaments, which to me, this is kind of the Super Bowl week, if you will. We have the Puerto Rico Open, a tournament that we've hit an outright winner on 2 out of the last 3 weeks. Typically speaking, those secondary events are the big money events because people aren't paying attention to it as much, and really their data probably just not as good. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to be guaranteed to be a good week for the Puerto Rico Open for betting or DFS, but typically speaking, it does end up being a pretty big edge. And we have the Arnold Palmer Invitational, guys. It is going to be a signature event that does have a cut, but with it being a signature event, with a limited field event, we are going to end up pretty much kind of treating it as a no-cut event, kind of like what we did in the last signature event where, yeah, there are going to be golfers that do struggle and miss the cut. That's just going to happen. Are those going to be golfers that we're going to be on? Probably not. So if we can find some of the values that are going to go out and at least make the cut and at least outproduce the price tag, and we compare those up with the likely winners, let's say Scotty or Rory, we're going to be sitting very pretty. And that's a strategy that people just don't tend to do, even though it continues to prove to be profitable each and every week. These before, guys, like these kind of almost no cut events I didn't like 3 years ago, and now getting it down as to how to go about properly attacking it, it's been a very sweet spot. And again, pretty excited about this week having 2 events to go. But with that, guys, we're going to go ahead into which golfers have the best course history. And real quickly, guys, before we get into that, I do want to call it the 9-to-5 data here. So because we have 2 events going on this week, you can click on the PGA 2 tab, and then that'll pull in the Puerto Rico Open ops or cheat sheet. Okay, so what we're going to notice here is that I have all the salaries listed as 7K because we're not getting PGA DFS odds just yet for that. If we do, then I'll obviously get that updated and loaded in there. But I did want to call that. We're going to be focusing on the main event, which is just going to be the PGA tab. And so looking at the golfers with the best course history, it is Scotty and Rory, pretty much the top 2. And then we get into Max Homa. Probably not going to be looking at Max Homa, but extremely great results here for him. Corey Connors has gotten better the last 4 years. You obviously missed the cut the years prior to that, but obviously we don't look at that too much. Harris English played extremely well at this event in the past. Justin Thomas, Keegan Bradley, Patrick Cantley is going to be someone we're looking at. Sanjay Im has played this course extremely well. What are we going to do with him? Probably not going to be on him. But the nice thing about this event is we do have a lot of golfers that have played this course a bunch. So we do know what to be looking at course history-wise, and we do know what to look at stat fit-wise as well. Now, I do want to call it, like last week, guys, the issue that we had last week is we were assuming that the tournament was going to play a little bit easier, just not that much easier. And so we were looking at bogey avoidance last week. We probably shouldn't have been, like literally at all. Okay, we probably should have just been looking at birdie to better percentage with how easy it ended up playing. Now, birdie to bogey ratio still ended up being a pretty good key stat. This week, I don't think we're going to see the course play that much easier. Now, we can adjust to that if it does, but I think the key stats that we've seen at this tournament in the past are going to end up being true key stats. Okay, it doesn't seem like that's going to change. Whereas last week, we were paying attention to it. That was part of the equation, and it ended up being a huge part of the equation in retrospect. But looking at it, guys, bogey avoidance, this is typically a course where golfers that are not making bogeys are the ones that are succeeding the most. Now, we do want to be looking at birdie to bogey ratio as well, but this is just your typical ball striker, total drivers type of course, which is very nice. You do want to be targeting maybe a little bit of the longer golfers off the tee, so maybe a little bit more total driving there. We can be looking at par 5 scoring a little bit, and also strokes gained approach, and also a little bit of 200 plus scoring. Those are all stats that I do have factored in, just not as heavily as the 4 key stats that we have listed here. But the top stat fits, guys, are Rory, Seb Straka, Colin Morikawa, Daniel Berger, who's been playing some good golf. We have Justin Thomas, Michael Kim popping up in there from another good week last week for him. Patrick Cantlay, Nick Taylor's an interesting name, and then Sam Burns. We go ahead here and jump on into the recent form tab. And the golfers that have the best recent form, we actually have Rory coming in with the best form, then Scotty, which is like the first time in a long time that that's happened, then Tommy Fleetwood, then Xander. So Xander coming in with those two kind of lackluster starts, which we have now been able to maybe attribute to him being a little bit banged up. And now we have to worry with that. Okay, I'm not watching TGL. I think his team's playing right now, so I'm not going to be able to see whether or not he's good to go. But we're probably just avoiding him, and that could end up being a mistake. But given the fact that we can easily get to Rory and Scotty, I don't see how we're going to get to him. And then we have some other players like Patrick Cantlay and Justin Thomas who are also in great form. We're probably going to be getting to them. You are seeing Russell Henley popping up in there in good form, Seb Straka popping up in there in good form. Minwoo Lee as well could be a great source of value for us on the slate because he is looking like a stellar option. Now, I do want to call one other piece of an update I made as well. So we can take a peek at which golfers have likely ties, extremely likely ties, very likely ties. And what I mean by that, which golfers either went to school close to this, currently live there, play from that area, or were born in that area. Okay, we have all that data points. And so what we're looking at is we're looking at extremely likely. These are golfers that are basically like 15 miles within the tournament. They're going to be players that we can assume have local ties. And the assumption is that they've at least played that event a decent amount. The only golfer that has that is Billy Horschel. We could jump into very likely then as well. We're going to notice Tommy Fleetwood, who's had success here. Hideki, interesting, right? Benny Ann, Justin Rose, and Eric Cole. Now we could also toss in maybe likely as well. That's going to be within an hour of the course. That's basically pulling in all the Florida golfers pretty much that are in the field. And we do see that those golfers are the ones that do tend to play well at this event. So very interesting to note. And now we go ahead here and get into the specialist data. Again, those golfers that are the best fits per se, but these are all more secondary stats that we want to look at. We don't want to look at this too much. It is kind of the cherry on top, and it is something we should be factoring in. What we're going to notice is that basically all the golfers that we're going to be on this week are going to be good specialists. That is interesting to note. I will say, like pricing wise, maybe Max Grayson, maybe Keegan Bradley a little bit more. We are going to begin to Russell Henley. I'm just teasing that already, but just wanted to call it. So now, guys, let's go ahead and get into the top plays for this week. And so, guys, with that, this week to me is pretty simple. Like, if you can pay up for Scotty Scheffler, you should be able to do so. I think he's going to be the most popular one and done option this week because, well, the thought was, all right, what is he going to be like coming into the season? Maybe his form was a little bit rusty. We're seeing him coming in off of a third place finish in his most recent event. He looked really sharp there. Not the most sharp at the Waste Management Phoenix Open, but prior to that, all pretty good stuff there as well for Scotty Scheffler. He two-time winner at this event, top 5 in the previous year as well. I don't need to explain it too much. If you can get to him, you should. The interesting thought process would be betting-wise. Do you want to bet on just Scotty Scheffler at 3.5 to 1? I could see doing that. I think I might actually do that because I feel like this is just very strongly going to be a Scotty Scheffler week, and it just feels like a player we should be going out of our way to target. Now, that being said, DFS-wise, I do think we could begin to Rory as well. Rory is basically a slightly worse version of Scotty Scheffler as a play. Maybe you would actually, depending on maybe what you're looking at, you could be a little bit better. Again, the form, slightly better over the last 5, especially. Okay. And the fact that we can get him at like 8.5 to 1, I'm teasing that idea as well. Scotty 1 unit, Rory 1 unit, and then we're done with our betting card. I think that's the route I'm going to go. But I will touch on some other options that you guys could go with if you guys choose to do so because, well, obviously it's fun to get there. But Rory has won, 2 events over his last 4 starts. Pretty impressive there. So from there, guys, we're going to jump down a little bit lower. And really, I think what we can start to look at is Patrick Cantlay. Okay, outright-wise, I do think you can get to him as well. We're getting pretty solid odds on him, 30 to 1 on FanDuel. They are trying to get us to bet on him pretty much. And he does have good course history, okay, but I wish it was a little bit better. Like we only see 1 top 5 finish mixed in there, 1 top 10 finish mixed in there over the past 4 years. A little bit of a concern there, but still not too bad. He's obviously been hitting the ball extremely well. He's a golfer that you would typically speak would be a good fit at this tournament. His form had left a little bit to be desired, but recently has been better. Okay, so where he had been priced over the past, 4 months or whatever that he's been in events. So let's just say over the past 12 events for him, he's been giving us top 20 finishes. That was great. What we were needing from him is what we saw at the American Express, what we saw at the Farmers Insurance Open, top 10 finishes there. And so I do think he gives us a good chance at that. I don't mind the idea of, potentially betting him to just top. I mean, you can get him at 1-to-1 to top 20. I think that's a pretty good bet there for Patrick Cantlay as well. From there, if you aren't paying up for Rory or Scotty, you are going Patrick Cantlay and Justin Thomas. It does seem like it's that simple, okay? course history-wise, 12th and 21st place finishes there for Justin Thomas. Very good stuff there for him. He's been someone that has been, looking pretty good. Okay, so he was chalky, predictably chalky disappointment, I would say, at the Century Tournament of Champions with how high owned he was. But since then, 2nd, 48th, 6th, and 9th. So he has been someone that seems like he's due for a win. And he's someone as well that if you want to get to him at 28-1 to win, I could see doing that as well. So if you're not betting on Rory or Scotty, if you're not playing those two in DFS or getting to them as much, it's pretty simple probably getting to those two. From there, I don't mind Tommy Fleetwood. I think that's a good option, but let's go ahead and jump on into the mid-tier. Guys, it's pretty clearly in the mid-tier that we are going to be getting to Russell Henley as well. Now, typically speaking, in these events, I don't necessarily want to do this, okay, but I also don't mind it. He is someone that, given his odds that we're getting as well at like 55-1 on Bovada or something like that, if you guys are someone that bets there, not terrible. Okay, we're getting a prototypical really great play, and I know he is someone that, again, last week, extremely tilting. Right when it seemed like things were breaking our way or my way, he gets into the lead, things are looking good, and then bogey, and he really just didn't have a shot to win after that. Right when it seemed like he was going to win, right when the odds flipped in his favor, right when Vegas thought he was going to win, bogey is very tilting. Okay, so that's the concern. But also the fact that he was in contention to win on a Sunday, that's always good. Like, that's not a bad thing. And so I don't mind the idea, actually, of getting him to at 50-1. Played well at the Cognizant Classic, top 10. AT&T Public Beach Pro-Am, top 10. Sony Open, top 10. I mean, he's just playing great golf, and he's a great staff hit. The 9-5 model actually has him ranked as the 4th best play. Okay, so I really like the idea of getting to him at least to top 20, but top 10. 4-1 feels like pretty good odds. He has done that. Okay, 4th last year, 55th, and then 13th. So good course experience as well. So Russell Henley, kind of the easy click there. So from there, I could get to Keegan. I think that's fine. Daniel Berger is interesting. Shane Lowry, you would expect to play well at this event. Seb Straka, I think, is a good and kind of interesting click as well. But we don't have to get too crazy with it. Wyndham Clark has been someone that's been looking pretty good, I would say, on the TGL. If you guys want to get there as well, I'm not going to talk you out of it. We just don't need to be concentrating on that range too much because, again, we're probably going to be loading up on the higher end golfers that are going to be more likely to top 10, more likely to win as well. And so with that, we're going to have to find some values here in the low tier. So let's go ahead and jump on into the low tier. Now, guys, just real quickly, I do want to remind you guys of the 9-to-5 membership. It's only $10 a month, gives you access to all the fantasy golf data that you guys see in this video, as well as much more. The lineup optimizer, PGA prop betting data for PrizePicks and Underdog, and just all the prop betting data as well for all the various sports for PrizePicks and Underdog. Take advantage of that, guys. It's the best deal out there for fantasy golf. Let's go ahead and get back into the picks. So we have a few players in the sleepers range, low tier range, that are interesting. So Akshay has been playing some pretty good golf, at the Mexico Open, top 10, which for him was actually kind of a bad start, but top 10 at the Farmers, really like that there from him. He has been, someone that does seem like he's ready to ascend to the next level, and so we like to see that there from him. Decent staff it across the board, 12th best staff in the field. Just pricing wise, he does seem pretty good. The one concern is going to be that specialist data, if you will, because looking at it, guys, nothing really pops from him. He actually does kind of struggle in this type of event. I mean, to be the 43rd best specialist in a limited field event, that is not good. That is a concern. So if you're looking for maybe a little bit of safety, and I say that because Corey Connors has not been hitting the golf ball well. If we had Corey Connors coming in strong form, one, he wouldn't be this cheap, but two, we'd be happy to get to him really regardless. So he's not a bad specialist. Okay, 14th best specialist in the field, has really good course history, guys, 4 straight desirable finishes at this price tag. Okay, and with that, 18th, 21st, 11th, and 3rd. So really good stuff there. Again, he is typically the golfer that we would want to be looking at for this type of event, just kind of the prototypical golfer for this event, but he hasn't been hitting it well. And so he is risky. Maybe GPPs, we can get to him, but definitely not a cash option. Jason Day, maybe more of a cash option, but at the same time, I don't think we need to get there. I think we're going to be dipping down into the value tier, but I don't mind him. From there, Ben Griffin, Michael Kim, all tickle my fancy. You got Ming Woo Lee there. I think they're all fine, but we don't need to get into that range. Let's actually jump on into the value tier. And so this is where I think we're going to get some of our better options. Okay, Patrick Rogers has made the cut at this event 3 out of the last 4 years, looking really good there. Recent form has been good enough, if you will, especially considering the price tag. Like, we wouldn't want to go crazy with it, but he's been playing pretty well. I mean, top 20 at the Cognizant, top 25 at the Mexico Open, 3rd at the Farmers. Terrible at the Waste Management Phoenix Open, but then 22nd, 56. We've seen a bunch thus far this season as well, which may be a bad thing. Like, maybe there's a little bit of fatigue that could set in with him. At the same time, he's looking like a great value play for us. I do think he gives us a good chance at making the cut. From there, guys, there's plenty of other options we can go with, but the clear-cut option is going to be Nick Taylor. Okay, Nick Taylor, 12th place finish at this event last year. Then kind of mixed results, but given the pricing, it's very interesting for a guy that has, top 5 form over his last 5 starts. Now that obviously includes a win, but also includes a top 10 place finish at the Farmers Insurance Open as well, a 12th at the American Express as well. He's a pretty good staff at, top 10 staff at, which to me is a little bit shocking. I don't think I'll be getting to him as an RA bet. Again, I kind of said I'm probably doing Scotty and Rory, but 150 to 1 on PointsBet, they're just begging you to place that bet. That is crazy odds. You compare it to some of the other markets, 90 to 1 on Unibet, like that is pretty crazy. We are seeing some very different odds for him. Okay, so I don't mind getting there maybe on PointsBet. Now, they're definitely giving us that line to get you to bet it, but I did want to call that because I thought that was a great line. Now, some other options like Harris English is down there. We got Eldrick, the guy that kind of got unlucky, the young guy. How's he going to bounce back from this, from that playoff loss? It's an interesting click because length can matter on a longer track. Strokes gained off the tee can matter on a longer track. Second best for strokes gained off the tee over his last 8 starts or 5 starts, top 8 there. So really good. And obviously he butted the golf ball pretty well in his last event. So that could mean good things for him as well. But from there, guys, we are gaining enough. It is crazy. Max Homa, look at that course history. And we're really not thinking about him too much because he's hitting the golf ball that terribly. Maybe you can get to him. Maybe he makes the cut and is fine for us. But with that, guys, let's go ahead and get into the core plays. And so, guys, the first core play is going to be Patrick Rodgers. Now, he's not going to be someone I would consider as an outright bet, but you could potentially get to him as a top 20 bet at 2 to 1. The point of being on Patrick Rodgers is the sense that we can easily then fit in Scottie Scheffler and or Rory as well. And if we get a make cut out of him, then we're getting 2 likely top 10 finishers in Scottie and Rory. So it's a core play in the sense that he should give us enough to be able to afford to pay up for the other guys. And really, with Patrick Rodgers as a play, we're really just expecting a top 50% finish, which I do think we'll get. His recent form of his last 3 starts, pretty darn solid. Course history, at least he has it. It does leave some to be desired. Only a top 50 stat fit as well. So there is some risk. That's all value plays, right? But I do think he does give us a good chance at a make cut. Now, Patrick Rodgers is one of those golfers that when you trust them, they typically let you down. So just be weary. But then the next core play, kind of the easiest click, I would say, honestly, for DFS this week is Nick Taylor. Nick Taylor has tremendous form, guys. If we go back one more start further, has a win, and then a 12th and 9th place finishes, all T33 or better. Just tremendous stuff for a guy that's priced at 6.7. Course history could be slightly better, but he is coming in off of a top 12 finish at this event last year. He is a top 10 staff as well. I'm kind of expecting him to give us a top 25 finish. And so we pair him with Scottie Scheffler and also Rory. That feels pretty good. Now, it'd be too simple for me to tell you guys that Scottie Scheffler and Rory are core plays. Okay, to me, that just seems like the obvious route to go. So I'm going to give you guys 2 other plays here as well that I would consider the next best options. Now, maybe you don't want to go Scottie and Rory together. That makes sense. Okay, so you could pair one of these 2 with the other golfer, or you don't want to play Scottie. You could potentially get away with playing both of those 2 in a lineup as well. We'll touch on those 2. And so one is going to be Patrick Cantlay. Patrick Cantlay, again, finally giving us some top 10 finishes, 2 over his last 3 starts. Love that there from him. Course experience-wise, 36th and a 4th place finish. He's going to be a top 5 staff. Actually, when we look at all the metrics, he ranks out top 10 or better in all the key metrics that we're looking at. That is pretty rare, guys. He is looking like an excellent option. The only other 2 that are top 10 or better in all the metrics are Scottie and Rory. So it's pretty easily able to see that Patrick Cantlay is going to be the next best click. Then from there, guys, Justin Thomas. Now, Justin Thomas may be a little bit too risky, I would say. I guess more risky than the first 3 golfers that we're going to be on. Patrick Cantlay, Rory, and Scottie. But Justin Thomas, 12th and 21st place finish at the event. Really good key stats. So he ranks out 3rd in bogey avoidance. He also ranks out 2nd in birdie to bogey ratio, which to me, a little bit shocking there with Justin Thomas. Ball striking and total driving could be better. 20th and 29th in the field. But again, really good course history here. Good form as well. So that'd be the next option that we can roll with. All right, guys. So look at this. If we were to just go Scottie Scheffler and Rory, you could easily fit in Nick Taylor and then Patrick Rodgers. And we're getting plenty of other value plays where you could still make that work. Now, I can see why maybe you won't want to do that. Maybe you don't want to play Scottie at that high price tag. Maybe you think he's going to finish top 5, but you can also get maybe top 10s out of Patrick Cantlay and Justin Thomas. Feel pretty good about that. I mean, this is insane, right? Pretty crazy. We get 6.7 left over as well. We have plenty of golfers here that should be able to make the cut. Maybe you want to chase more GPP upside with Eldrick there. Harris English feels like a safe play. Jaeger feels like a safe play. A very safe play is Christian Bazuno. That all seems pretty darn easy to do, right? So it's going to be up to you guys. I'm not going to finalize the build here with the limited field event, but I did want to call that out. Now we're going to go ahead and get into the 9 to 5 lineup optimizer. see how that is comparing against my thoughts. All right, so just real quickly, guys, this did default to the Players Championship for the 9 to 5 lineup builder. So if you're a 9 to 5 member, do want to call that out, click on the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Just want to call that out. So again, guys, the fantasy projections are priority-based ranked projections. So basically, the projections will rise more and more to get the proper priority, proper exposure on a golfer with how they're projected to play. That's why you're seeing Sky Scheffler at 173. Now, could I just make that 73? Sure. Or like cut the projections in half? Sure. But this is just providing the proper priority projection. So I did want to call that out. He's not going to actually score 173 fantasy points. But again, it's just for us to be able to provide the proper exposures to those golfers. And so honestly, given that projection for Scotty with how likely he is to win, I'm assuming that he's going to be in a lot of our builds, but maybe not. Okay, he is. Let's actually see the ownership rank. 100% him. Ming-Woo Lee, who I mentioned, was a good value. 100% for him. Corey Connors, Ben Griffin, Akshay. And so it is getting to some of the values. Christian Bazuna, Nick Taylor, which I like to see. And let's see, with Nick Taylor, we are getting Keegan in there, Scotty in there as well. So definitely interesting there. I really don't mind those lineups. I think those are all pretty darn solid. All right, guys. So real quickly, we're going to jump on into the Puerto Rico Open as well. So we currently don't have any odds listed. I do want to potentially get that added in there for this week. I think that could be a nice edge. But what's super annoying about this week is that all the golfers that we probably would have bet on, we're getting at not good odds. So just looking at guys, I already looked at like Ryan Gerard, Bryce Garnett. They're both at 20-1. So a little bit annoying there. Kevin Roy, I'm going back to guys. He's also like 25-1. Okay, with Kevin Roy again, he's not going to pop up naturally that much in the data because one of his events he had a withdrawal, and then last week just had a terrible first round driving the ball. He could not hit a fairway. Alleviated that in the back nine in round 2 and potentially gave us a shot at a make cut, but he is still top 10 in recent form rank, and he is still first best stat fit for us, or the top stat fit for us this week. So still gonna be someone we're getting to. But Ryan Gerard, kind of the easy click. Then in terms of like value options, guys, Hayden Springer and Lanto Griffin are both about 45-1 odds. I feel pretty darn good about those odds. Nicholas Norgard, Moeller, whatever you want, Norgard, pretty good play as well. I think we're going to be getting to him as well, across the board, looking like a stellar option for us. Sam Stevens, I'm struggling with him. Like, if he wins, I will definitely be kicking myself, but given his odds that we're getting, he's also about 20-1. I don't exactly love it. I would actually rather get to Ben Coles, again, not the clutchest player, apparently. Okay, on 18 for him at the moment, it seemed like he needed to make a par to be able to make the cut. He ended up bogeying 18, which for him definitely meant that he was going home. And then you also look at 2 events ago, he also missed the cut because of a bogey on 18. So do we expect him to win? I mean, guys, I was on Ryan Brehm at this event 2 years ago, which was completely lucky. Honestly, like one of the luckiest kind of fire from the hip bets that won. Typically not what I do, but that's kind of the fun part about these events. Kind of feels like that could be there with Ben Coles, where you're just playing a golfer that's been playing good enough golf, good course history here as well. And then for what's worth, guys, Bud Cauley, an interesting click as well. 56th place finish last week. That was annoying. And then Ricky Castillo as well. Ricky Castillo is basically a poor man's Kevin Roy, even though he... Thank you for watching. Give a like and subscribe to the channel. That does help out a bunch. Again, if you guys want access to the tools, head on over to 9to5sports.com. Get access to those for just $10 a month. Thank you guys for watching. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.